Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going over this handguard that you see on this rifle here and that you've also seen painted up on one of my 20-inch AR builds. So this one here is Bravo Company's QRF or Quad Rail Forend. It's a quad rail, as the name implies, and it has Picatinny 1913 spec rails on all four sides, but it's relatively lightweight. Has Bravo Company's really cool mounting system, which we'll get into in great detail here in just a second. And all in all, it's a pretty solid handguard. From everything I've seen, at least talking to viewers, I know a lot of people have picked these up and have been happy with them. Now, 1913 has some pros and cons versus M-LOK and key mods, so we'll get into that later on in the review. But right now, we're going to let the dogs take a look at it, and after that, we'll get into the details. When getting into the details of any BCM handguard, I think the starting point really has to be the barrel nut, and the reason is it's a super secure, relatively lightweight system that is as good or better than most things out there on the market. So basically, we have our rail here, we have our barrel nut, that of course comes with it, and then we have these pieces here. And what these things do is you can see with them right here on this particular upper, but they go through under the rail, or rather through the rail, somewhat like this, just to kind of give you an idea of what it's going to look like. And like so. And those two screws there are underneath, or rather in between that little indented spot there on the barrel nut. So there's really no way this rail could ever come off without these two the screws shearing off. So the odds of that happening are very, very slim to none. So that prevents any movement forward, particularly when the rifle gets hot. As some of you guys know, some handguards do move when they get hot, and that really just prevents it from happening again unless those two screws actually sheared off, and they actually lock into each other, which is very cool as well, as you guys can see here. Basically what you're going to do when you're installing it, and I do of course have the full install video of this on the B channel, this piece goes in first, and then the second screw goes in there and interfaces with this one, so that way that screw can't back out at all. It's absolutely impossible. It's really an ingenious design. And then to prevent movement left to right, you do have this insert as well, which locks into your upper receiver right here, as you guys can see, and there's no way it can move right or left because the slots are cut there into the upper receiver, rather into the handguard where it nests with the upper receiver. Really, really, really solid design in my opinion. When you first get your handguard in, the first thing you'll notice when picking it up is probably going to be the weight. So it's very lightweight for a quad rail handguard. So this is the QRF 12, so it's the longest one, also of course the heaviest one that they have. And this handguard here weighs in at 11.8 ounces by itself, and then the hardware is going to add another 2.3 ounces. So basically you're looking at a total of 14 ounces added to your rifle with this handguard. Now they make them in different lengths, 7, 8, 9 inches, I believe 10 as well. We'll roll in the weights of those here below on the bottom of your screen, but for a quad rail handguard, that's very lightweight. It's one of the lightest ones out there on the market that I'm aware of anyway. Of course, it's made from 6061 T6 aluminum. It's got the Type 3 hard coat anodizing on there. And you're going to have a good bit of milling on basically the offset positions all the way around, and that's going to contribute, of course, to the lightweight nature of the handguard. Now you're going to have T markings for mounting optics or lasers or anything like that all the way across the top, and on the right side, of course, R markings. Bottom, of course, you're going to have B markings. Left side, of course, you're going to have L markings. So that's for mounting any of your accessories. So that way you can know and reference where you had it if you take it off and put it back on, and you should go back to where you're at. Now they also have QD points at the 3 and 9 o'clock position, both at the front of the handguard as well as the back, and they're limited rotation QD points. So we have a Magpul sling here, and you can see there it will move a little bit, but it will not move a lot. I'd say probably 10 degrees, maybe 15 degrees. So a little bit of play is nice, but you don't want those things spinning like they do on some handguards out there. So that is a good thing in my opinion. Also, looking back here on the rear, it just reminded me that they definitely took some weight out there where they could as it meets up to the receiver, because behind that QD socket, nobody's going to really use any rail points back there anywhere. So they cut it down to lighten it up. So definitely a lot of thought went into it. One other cool detail to point out on this handguard is that at the 3, 6, and 9 o'clock position, BCM hollowed out those rails. So that definitely helps to save the weight that we talked about earlier, and it's a pretty cool design feature, and they definitely thought about things when coming up with this design like I mentioned earlier. So why would you get a 1913 rail over MLOK or QMOD? Well, in terms of like extreme use durability, nothing beats the 1913 rail, even to this day. MLOK's pretty darn close, and for most civilians is absolutely going to be just fine. I have zero issues trusting MLOK stuff, and I think actually both of my home defense rifles, primary home defense rifles, have MLOK on it. But for lasers and return to zero and all that stuff, the king is still going to be 1913. Now you're going to pay a cost, and that cost is weight. But if that kind of stuff is really important to you in terms of bomb-proof durability and shear force and all of that stuff, then 1913 rails still make a lot of sense. And this one here make more sense than most, simply because it's not super heavy like a lot of them out there are. Now, price point, these ones are, depending on length, of course, generally going to be like $160 all the way up to like $190, and we will drop links with codes down below if you guys are watching off of YouTube, so we can actually link to stuff, not violate the rules. And if you guys are watching on YouTube and you need to get those, just shoot me a message over on Facebook and I'll get that stuff to you. But all in all, for what you get, the mounting system, the lightweightness, the durability of it, I think they're going to sell a good bit of these. I know a lot of folks really want the MLOK stuff, but some people still want that quad rail, and I understand why. I'm certainly not opposed to it. But if you guys have any questions on the handguard that I didn't cover, you're going to always post down below in the comment section. You can also post over at my Facebook page that I mentioned earlier. That's generally the best way to get in touch with me. But that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for subscribing. If you haven't already subscribed, please go ahead and do so, and I hope to see everybody in the next video.